Hi, I'm Brandon.
And I'm Megan.
For years, we were stuck in a rut, always complaining that nothing ever changed for us.
And then we realized if we wanted to improve our lives, we had to put in the work.
Each week on this podcast, we'll get into an aspect of personal growth, relationships, or just life.
Through our own experiences and guest interviews, we hope to inspire you to make your own positive changes.
Welcome to the Fools in Love podcast. Well, hello out there. Welcome back, y'all. So happy you're here. If you're a first-time listener, welcome. We are so excited that you're here. And if you're back, we are even more pumped that you're back because that means you actually love us. So today we're going to talk a little bit about some experiences. I know it's shocking because we never talk about our experiences, but we're going to talk a little bit about some experiences I've been having as of recently. I know you've had like in the past, but really, the overarching theme for today is that this whole self-improvement game, this whole personal growth thing, a lot of it just happens in the dark. Like, it happens in the shadows. Like, people don't necessarily see it all the time. And I would argue even probably 80-90% of it, no one actually sees, or you're not actually sharing. They only really see, I guess, like that social media picture of like, hey, we're doing this thing. And for us, I think about, honestly, like we've recently done a few trainings, we've done some courses, and like people see, oh, the fools are doing a course again on relationships. That's really cool. And it might look like we just threw that together, but like we worked countless hours, months behind the scenes to get that to come to fruition. But a lot of that process doesn't really get shared. No one's really aware of the fact that you're putting in the work. It can be a little daunting. It can be a little like unrewarding because if you don't pump yourself up, like no one else is going to. The reality is no one else really cares. So I can't wait to just delve into all that today.
Okay, so the best part about this is like when you were talking about the course, I was thinking, yep. And then I was also thinking about how we just recently signed up for our half marathon, which will be the first weekend in November. And how much training and like just work and hours and time and energy we're going to have to put into that. And I mean, yes, people will see it like on our Instagram stories if we're going on a run or whatever, and we'll post it sometimes. But there's just so much of that that's just like that motivation, or that motivation's not even the word I want, just that drive to do it. Like the fact that you just have to get up and do it no matter what. And like, no one's going to just sit there and like applaud you for that. I mean, sure. Like I said, if you get on social media and share it, then yeah, you might get some people being like, yeah, go, that's great. But most of that work is just that private situation where you're just kind of doing all of that. And there is an end result, and that end result will be shared, but no one's going to see the blood, sweat, and tears that you put into all that training. And that's for much of life. That's for so many things that we work so hard on. And I just kept thinking, like, there are so many examples of just places that we've been and things that we've done that we just have worked so hard on, and nobody really knows. Like when we get up at 4 a.m., like we recently started doing that again because we totally fell off the wagon on that. But unless we tell you that, like, you don't know what we're doing at 4 a.m. You don't know if we're sleeping or awake. You don't know if we're using that time to, dink around and do silly things, or if we're doing that for personal growth things. Like, we'd have to share that with you. So for us to be becoming better people, becoming who we want to be a little bit more each day, like, we'd have to tell you that. You don't just know that.
Yeah, and I think it's important, like what you just touched on, because I think it's really easy to fall into a pattern of when you don't have the support. And trust me, I'm all about, we talk about here, I'm all about like having that support system and having people to kind of lift you up and surrounding yourself with that group of people that's going to push you to be more, to be greater, to just encourage you and give you grace and help you along the way. But I think also it's really easy to fall into that trap of saying, well, I don't have these cheerleaders. I don't have anyone to boost me up. Therefore, I'm not going to do it. And you just touched on it a minute ago, but like we're coming out of a season, and I would argue it's a pretty long season of this whole year where we just had a conversation where the New York Times talked about it as languishing, which means you're just kind of struggling through. I mean, you're making it each day, but you're just struggling hard through every single thing. It just seems like there's obstacles, and it doesn't even have to be big obstacles. It's hard.
Yeah, I think they described it as like you're not depressed, but you're not just like loving life to the fullest either. It's just kind of this like blah, like we're existing kind of thing.
Right. And so when life gives you situations and gives you hard things and gives you difficult things, we know firsthand. There's no judgment. We know how difficult it is. And we're being completely vulnerable and honest here to tell you that this year, from January till now, we're in, almost the end of May. We've really been on the struggle bus. I mean, we talk about these things, and I've felt many times, just to be real, like a hypocrite, because I talk about these things. I say we should do these things. And I know I'm not like wrong when I say those things. I know how important they are, but I also know the struggles y'all have, even if I don't know them specifically, but I know how easy it is to fall off the wagon. And I know for me personally, like I was just really feeling it, like really feeling the hurt, really feeling depressed, and just feeling a lack of motivation and feeling a lack of anything. And it left me really searching and wondering, what have I done that all of a sudden I'm feeling this way? Now, the lowest hanging fruit for that, I'm just going to be honest, you've probably said it yourself, is this whole COVID thing, is this whole crazy world we're living in. It might just be the bad news that you see all the time. It might be the COVID thing. But when I look in the mirror, I'm sorry, that's just BS for me. Like, I call myself on that because we're all living in that. Everyone I see that I look up to that's still killing it out there, they're also living in the same environment. So like, if your environment is constantly in this space, then you have to shift your environment to adjust to what you need to do and change your habits and grab on to the things. Because what I realized for me is it was more important now than ever to lean into these shadowy moments and grab onto something that I know is going to motivate me. So perfect example of this, Meg said recently we just started waking up at 4 a.m. I would argue Meg has actually woken up at 4 a.m. She never stopped, really. Other than the weekend, you kind of fell off. But I mean, like, for the most part, you're waking up at 4 a.m. Now, the difference is she was waking up at 4 a.m., she was getting the shower, and she was coming back to bed. I mean, there was no, like, productivity in between. And I think it's important to just be honest about that.
Oh, yeah. I had totally fallen off. I wasn't doing my gratitude. I wasn't doing my devotional. I was literally getting up, taking my shower, and hurrying back to bed so that I could get more sleep in, which, okay, yes, technically I was waking up at 4, but when you're waking up at 4 just to get a shower out of the way, that's not really what we're talking about here. And you don't have to wake up at 4. We don't care what time you wake up. But like for us, it just helps because we have young children that wake up pretty early, and we just need a little bit more time. And the only way for us personally to find that time for those personal growth activities that we don't have a chance to do during the day, that's in the morning for us. So that's when we choose to do it. But the problem was when we got off that habit, when we stopped doing that, it was super hard, basically impossible, even though nothing's impossible, for us to get back on. And when I reflect, I think that's just, yes, it was laziness for sure, but it was just, the problem really was once we stopped. If we had never stopped, we'd be fine. But once we stopped, it was like there was always an excuse that we had to keep the thing going. Like, oh, yes, well, now we're in an Airbnb, so we don't have our normal stuff. Well, I mean, you can obviously write down gratitude anywhere. You can obviously do devotionals from there's apps. Like, everything had an excuse. Well, now we're about to go to live with my mom for a week, and now we're about to move and close into our house. So there was always one more thing, a reason that we couldn't do what we wanted to do. And we'd used it for everything. That's why we're not eating right. That's why we're not running all the time. That's why, we are just complete messes, to be honest.
Right. And I think we all rationalize like that. It's just, I'm super motivated if everything's perfect. And then when it's not, then I fall off. And then once I fall off one day, then I'm like, oh, okay, I'll get back on it. And then I don't, and then I don't, and then I don't. And like you said, we continued to kind of fall off of that pattern. And I think if you're being honest with yourself, we're all guilty of it. You fall into this cycle, you fall into this pattern. And the hardest part in all of it is nobody else cares. No one cares that you're not doing what you said you were going to do. Nobody. If it's not directly affecting them, they just don't care. And that's not like a negative thing. It's just they're busy. They have their own lives. They're living in their own world. I would even argue that, Meg, you don't care as much as I care about myself and my things that I need to do. Like, You are never going to, judge me or be like negative to me, at least not out loud, if I'm not doing the things that I said I was going to do for myself, not for my family, not for you. That's different. If I'm not holding up to my commitments that I've made that affect you or other people, that's totally cool. And I'll probably get called on that. The world will call me on that, and I'll have to adjust. But when it's my own thing, when it's me, like getting a little bit of dad gut, like me not doing the things I need to do, not waking up early, sleeping in, you're not going to call me on that because you're not going to care as much as I care about myself. And that's that ownership piece. You have to grab on and have ownership. So to give you an example of that, so we have been doing that. We have been kicking that can. We have been making the excuse. We have been rationalizing our faces off this entire year. And it got to the point where I'm like, this isn't working. This does not work. It does not work for me. It doesn't matter if it works for Meg. I didn't even ask Meg. I just said, this doesn't work for me. So this week I was like, you know what? I've been thinking about it, to be honest, y'all. Been thinking about it for a month at least, maybe 2, saying, I know I need to do this and I haven't done it because no one cares. Because it's only in my head.
Again, it's in the shadows. You're not going to get recognition and praise for this.
No. And I'm not even saying it, but y'all this isn't a flex. This isn't a push my chest out and, oh, Brandon's so great. This is just, I want to share what happens because I think we all fall into these traps and these lies. So I decided this week, you know what? I'm going to get up at 4 a.m. And not only am I going to get up at 4 a.m., I'm going to go run at 4 a.m. So the last 2 days, it's real. I mean, I'm being transparent. This has been 2 days. So I'm not trying to say, wow, Brandon, you are so great. But it's been a couple days and I'm going to keep on this trend. But I've been waking up at 4 a.m. I laced up my shoes. I get out the door. Now, the first morning, I hit a million obstacles. I couldn't find anything. I didn't lay my stuff out. I didn't do all the things I should have done. But I still went out and did it. And when I went out and went for a run at 4 a.m., you know one thing I noticed? There was nobody else out there. I legit told Meg, I'm like, I started counting how many cars I actually saw at 4 a.m. I ran 2 miles. How many cars I saw? I saw 4 cars. And then I went a step further. You know how many lights? I was like, how many lights are on? Because I didn't have my headphones in. I was making myself aware of the environment. I was taking it all in. I was giving myself time to think, time to, refresh my mind because we're just always so inundated with stuff. That's a side note, but I noticed there's 5 people with their lights on at 4 a.m. 5. And I'm going to bet that a lot of those people probably had to be at work at like 5. Like their schedule made them have to get up. But the reality is most people are not willing to do the work, are not willing to hold themselves accountable for what they want to do. Now, it might not be fitness for you. It might not be, I don't know what it is. It might be, a side hustle you're trying to start. It might just be a business that you've been working on that you haven't been putting forth the effort. But no one else is going to care about that as much as you do. And we reflect on that a lot because it's important to note that no one else cares about your dreams. If you die with your dreams, then they just die with you. No one else is going to care. Yeah, they might lift you up. Yeah, they might motivate you. But you got to find that within yourself. And so what I've done is I found that within myself. And let me tell you, I don't want to get up. When I get up, it's not fun. I don't want to do it. It's not exciting. But when I'm done, I don't say this lightly. I'm not trying to be, I'm being a little funny, but it's like a drug. I mean, it's like endorphins. It's so motivating to start out my day because once I get back, that means I've already accomplished the main thing that I need to accomplish. So I start my day off on the fact that I'm going to accomplish the thing that I set out to accomplish. Because what happens in life is a lot of times with our goals, a lot of times with what we're trying to do, if we're trying to improve, we're trying to be better, we fall into everything comes into our way. There's a million obstacles. There's a million things. And especially like if there's that little piece of you that doesn't really want to do it, your brain will find obstacles and rationalizations and reasons for not doing it at all. And I think about, I don't know if you remember this, but I think about that, I think it was like Tropicana or something. It's like an orange juice commercial. And the whole premise of the commercial, if you haven't seen it, is the person's like, this is what's going to happen to you today. So they're sitting there in the morning with their glass of orange juice and they're like, you're going to get pulled over for a ticket. Your kid's going to get sick. You're going to, get into a car wreck and you're going to do this. Oh man, well, at least I had my orange juice. And it's all about the whole idea of that is just making sure that you're getting in something that's good for you, putting in something that's great for you in your life to get you through all those other things. And one of the things that we forgot to grab onto when we were in this languishing time is the things that served us and got us to a place where it made us in the environment to be the best versions that we could be. Because we know firsthand sitting on couches and relaxing and sleeping in doesn't get us to what we want. And so it's funny how shocking it is when you're all of a sudden kind of waffling in everything you're doing and not getting the results that you want when you're not doing any of the things that you know serve you to get to that point.
And honestly, it's funny to me too, because when I think about it, I always feel, results aside, push the results and getting things done aside, when I'm doing those things, I just feel better about me. Like internally, I just feel better. I might not lose 10 pounds. I might not, grow the business. I might not do anything that's a wow factor, but internally, I'm feeling better. I just do. When I go on my runs, when I wake up early and do the gratitude practice, when I am doing journaling and devotionals and all the things that I know help me, that I know set the tone for my day, when I run after work, all of those things really do help me. Like, I know that. So to spend months not doing the things that I know is just crazy. And so it's just kind of like a weird thing that, like, if I know that it helps me and I'm miserable anyway, why don't I start? Like, why don't I just get back on the wagon and do it? But there's a million reasons why, and I'm sure you guys know them all. And I think that the biggest thing is just making that decision, making the decision that today is the day. You don't have to wait till tomorrow. You don't have to wait till next Monday. You don't have to wait till next month. There's no like fresh start day or date that's going to help you. Brandon said, like, he was just like, you know what? I'm going to do it. Like, I've been thinking about this for months. Now is just the time. Like, now I'm just going to do it. He could have been like, well, I'll wait till June at this point. But instead he was like, nah, tomorrow morning I'm going to wake up and I'm going to start this. So for me, it's just like that conscious decision and then sticking to it, because it's way, way easier for me when I just make that decision and then keep going. The struggle that I have is when I stop doing any of those things. You can stop for a day. Maybe you can stop for 2 days. Rest is obviously great. We are not saying never rest, never take a break. But when I get off of more than just that tiny break, that's when I'm like, I just fall apart. I just crumble and can't figure out how to get back on.
Right. And the thing too is, it's not sexy. Like, nothing about this is sexy. Like you said, it doesn't even have to be a big thing. It doesn't even have to be result oriented. You're going to have to take a look at your own life and figure out what that is for you. It might not be any of this. It doesn't have to be some big aspiration. But is there something that's been gnawing at you that you feel like you should do? Is there something that's out there that you know you should accomplish? Is there times where you've been giving yourself a break when you know you shouldn't be giving yourself a break? Are you running away from something when you should be leaning into it? There's just so many different realities that we're all dealing with, and we can't answer that for you. You got to take an internal look with yourself, but it isn't sexy. When we look at the entrepreneurial life, when we look at the people out there, I think about this a lot. Like, you look at the people and you look at the overnight successes and all the things, but you don't look at the grind that they're putting in every day. Like, they're working 80 hours a week and we see them at the mountaintop and we're like, oh, wow, look at how amazing their life is. They did nothing to get there. They just tripped and fell up to the top of that mountain. And that's how we a lot of times we look at it, because that's not shared. When they get to that glamorous thing, when they get to the Forbes magazine article, when they get to a top-rated podcast, when they get to, authoring a best-selling book, then we're like, oh my gosh, they're just incredible and we couldn't possibly get there. But you discount all of what they did to get there and how many years they had to put in to get there.
Right. Isn't it like overnight success is like 10 years?
Yeah, it's at least 10 years and there's no guarantees. The reality is there's no guarantees. But it's like, for you, what you have to do is look at it and say, where do I feel like I'm struggling right now? Where do I feel like I could improve right now? And understand that if you don't have a cheerleader, if you don't have a person, the best cheerleader is you. But also, the biggest deter of you getting to your goals is also you.
Ouch, that one hurts a little bit. That stings. But yeah, I think that once you figure out that it's not going to be something that you do for the glamour, you do for the glory, that really it's just an internal thing for you, then it helps a lot. Because if I'm waiting around for anyone to notice what I'm doing, for anyone to pay attention to what I'm doing, I might be waiting a long time. I might be waiting forever. But if I just decide that I want to do it for me regardless, that's when the magic happens. That's where I'm really going to learn and change and grow. And yeah, to the outside world, maybe they never notice, or maybe they notice a year into it, or, whatever the case may be. But I'm going to feel it immediately. I'm going to know what I'm doing, and I'm going to feel proud of that. And I think that as I feel more proud, as I feel more grounded in what I'm doing, then there's going to be an internal change that just makes me a better person pretty quickly, no matter what the outside world sees.
Right. I mean, you're going to start to show up better. And like you said, if no one notices, my guess is they probably will, though. They're going to notice a change in you. But if they don't, you're going to be feeling better. And isn't that enough? A lot of times we focus on what other people think and what other people's opinions are of us, and we can't show up a certain way or do a certain thing because someone else might think a certain thing. But if you're miserable ultimately, then how is that helping you? Like, if you are feeling better, if you're showing up, if you're doing whatever this thing is, maybe it's writing every day, maybe it's journaling, maybe it's starting a podcast, maybe it's whatever. I don't know what it is for you. But grabbing onto those things and leaning into maybe some discomfort and knowing that ultimately at the end of it, you're going to show up as a better person each and every day, it's got to be worth it. But you got to understand and you got to realize that it needs to be worth it for you. You have to make that decision. And like Meg said, man, I can't say it enough. You can make the decision now. Like, it does not have to be some new year, new moon, new life, whatever it is. Like, people always want new, and think that's like going to be the switch that they need. But that's fleeting, y'all. Like, you have to make the decision in yourself. And from that decision, that one decision, i.e. me running day 1, guess what? I woke up and ran day 2. And tomorrow I'm going to wake up and run day 3. It starts you on a trend and a cycle until you build that habit. And I think the rule of thumb is it takes at least 30 days to build a habit and to get yourself used to it. And the other thing to remember with that, just to couple right with that, and this is a hard pill to swallow for me. I was reflecting on this the other day. I heard it on it was either a podcast or an audiobook I'm listening to, but they said the growth and self-improvement journey is never finished. A lot of times we want to get to a place where we're like, we want to realize this goal. We want to realize this thing. Like, we want to have it all figured out. I hate to tell y'all, you're never going to have it all figured out. You're not. There's no way to actually have it all figured out because you're constantly changing. The world's constantly changing around you. Everything, like, you can always improve. You can always get more. You can always try for more. You can always do better here or do better there or lift yourself up here. It doesn't ever go away. And I get that's super daunting to think about. But when you think about it more so as an education and the fact that you can constantly learn and change and grow, that's pretty amazing too. Me and Meg have a phrase around our house when we see people that have changed and we see, like, for our daughter, our kids, even with each other, we're like, that's growth. That's growth. And it's really just, we say it jokingly, but I think we more so say it as a reminder that to ourselves and our brain that it is possible, because we get stuck in that fixed mindset of where we want to be and the fact that we can't do it because of this, that, or the other reason. But when you're like, hey, that's growth, baby, that means it can happen. It is happening. We've proved it happens. And I show myself every day when that happens that I'm capable of more. But you got to believe that in your own self, and you got to give yourself the tools and stop holding yourself back, like I think a lot of us are guilty of.
Yep. Self-improvement, guys, like as the name indicates, it's individual. It just is. It's an individual thing. So don't let the fact that you do most of it in the quiet, if you do most of it in the dark, as we're saying, if you do most of it where no one even realizes what you're doing, that's okay. I mean, it really is. It's fine. It's great to do it, because in the end of it, what matters is how you're feeling and what you're capable of and what you believe about you. So go ahead and start that journey, even when it's not pretty, even when no one cares or knows. It's all about what's going to happen to you at the end. what are you learning? What have you grown into and who you want to be? So if you're interested in personal growth, if you're interested in becoming somebody better tomorrow, it doesn't mean you're not great today. You are great today. But if you want to grow and change and learn every single day of your life, today is the day to start. So go out there and start doing it.
That's right, y'all. I hope we challenge you today. I hope we give you, at the minimum, some things to think about and some things to reflect on. Maybe you'll pull out a journal and start journaling about it. Maybe you'll just talk to yourself in the mirror about this. But if you have questions, if you are struggling, if you feel like you have nowhere to turn or you just need some additional help, you can always reach out to us at The Fools in Love on Instagram, or you can email us at hello@thefoolsinlove. We'd be happy to help you and come alongside you in this journey. We love y'all, and we hope you have a great day.
Hey B, what did you think of that episode?
I think it was pretty dang good.
Well, what should someone do if they enjoyed these last 30 minutes?
They should probably head over and leave us a review so we can reach more people.
They definitely should.
Guys, if you like the Fools in Love podcast, please go follow us over on Instagram at Fools in Love Podcast.
We'd love to connect with you and learn more about what you'd like to hear.